Welcome to The Explainer. We're living longer than ever, that's for sure. But here's the real question. Can we die better? Today we're diving into exactly that, looking through the lens of modern Taiwan, where age-old traditions are bumping up against new laws, new ideas about rationality, dignity, and our right to choose. All right, so let's get right into it. The story really kicks off with a very modern problem. A dilemma that, honestly, families all across Taiwan are grappling with as we speak. And it's a tension that comes directly from our own incredible medical success. I mean, think about it. Our medical tech is so powerful now, it can keep us alive way, way beyond what anyone thought possible just a generation ago. But this amazing progress, it creates a really deep conflict. It puts this traditional cultural value of living as long as possible in a head-to-head clash with a very modern desire for a dignified, pain-free death. To work our way through this emotional and complex issue, we need a map, a guide. And for that, we're going to turn to the work of Yale philosopher Shelley Coggin. He gives us something like a toolkit for clear thinking. He uses strict, rigorous logic, not faith, not gut feelings, to really take apart the big questions about death. Kagan starts at square one, with the most fundamental question of all. What even are we? He lays out two big ideas. On one side, you have dualism, the idea that we've got a physical body and some kind of non-physical soul that might just carry on after we die. But on the other side, there's physicalism. This view says, nope, a person is their physical body, full stop. To have a truly rational conversation about our choices at the end of life, Kagan argues we really need to start from that physicalist foundation. Now, this might seem super abstract, but its real-world consequences are massive, especially in a place like Taiwan. See, the physicalist view gives us a framework to tell the difference between just biological life, a heart that's beating, and what we might call personhood. It lets us ask that incredibly tough question. If the parts of the brain that make me, are gone forever, is medical treatment actually preserving a person? Or is it just maintaining a body? This question, it's the bedrock for all the talk about ending futile care. Okay, so with that philosophical groundwork in place, we can finally get to the most important question of all, the one that sits right at the very heart of these decisions. What is it that truly makes a life worth living? So Kagan's deprivation theory is really interesting. It suggests that our fear of death isn't really about the state of being dead. I mean, you can't experience that anyway, right? What we're actually afraid of is being deprived of all the good stuff we would have had, all the future joy, the love, the meaning. It's a clever way to flip the script, to shift the focus away from the negative idea of death and onto the positive value of the life we're losing. And that brings us to this crucial contrast here. Is life always worth preserving no matter what? That's the valuable container theory, and it lines up pretty well with some traditional views on longevity. Or, does life's value depend on its quality? The neutral container theory says, look, if the container of your life is only filled with irreversible pain and suffering, then rationally, there's no value in extending it. And boom, this quote just nails the huge shift happening in Taiwanese society. It shows this clear movement away from that traditional valuable container idea, life at all costs, and toward a more modern, neutral container view that really puts dignity and quality of life front and center. So how does all this thinking, this big shift, go from being just a theory to something real? Well, it gets built right into the law. This whole philosophical framework becomes the powerful support for Taiwan's groundbreaking legislation on patient rights. Taiwan's Patient Self-Determination Act, or PSDA, is a total game changer. It gives individuals the legal power to plan their own end-of-life care using something called an advance directive. It basically writes into law that a person's own rational choice about what a good death looks like for them has to be respected. And the impact of this? It's been pretty incredible. The use of hospice care, which is all about comfort and dignity instead of pointless treatments, has shot up 5-fold. I mean, a 5-fold increase. That's not just a statistic. That's a powerful signal of a really deep change in how people in Taiwan are choosing to face the end of life. And check this out. A 60% drop in CPR for terminal cancer patients. What this means is that because of better planning, and because there's a law that actually respects what patients want, far fewer people are being put through aggressive, often painful, and frankly futile procedures right at the very end. But it's absolutely critical to understand the very clear line that this law draws. The PSDA gives you what's called a negative right. That's the right to be left alone to say no thanks to more treatment. but it does not give you a positive right, which would be the right to demand someone take an action, like euthanasia. So Taiwan's law respects your autonomy, but holds the line that doctors can't be active agents in causing death. Okay, so having a legal right is one thing, but actually being able to use it, especially when you factor in family and culture, that can be a whole other challenge. This really captures the conflict you see on the ground in Taiwan. In the real world, you could have a perfectly clear, legally binding advance directive, but your wishes can still be challenged by family members. They might see it as their absolute duty, their filial piety, to prolong your life, no matter the financial cost and no matter your own suffering. This suggests such a powerful and frankly necessary rethinking of that tradition. What if the highest form of respect, the truest way to show you care, isn't just fighting for one more breath against someone's will? What if it's honoring the well-thought-out, rational choices they made for a dignified end? So where does this all leave us as individuals? Well, it all comes down to doing some proactive, rational planning. It's really about taking control and writing your own story. At the end of the day, the big takeaway is that following these 4 steps is an act of empowerment. It's about using reason to figure out what you value, talking about it openly, and then making it legally official. And that last step is key. This isn't about giving up on life, it's about responsibly authoring your own final chapter. Ultimately, this is so much more than just a legal debate or a philosophy class. It's about starting conversations that bring clarity and dignity to one of the most profound moments we all face. And that leaves a final question for every single one of us. What conversation do we need to start today to make sure our own final chapter is one of peace and respect?